If you can just walk us through your past experience, what you have seen personally, and how the field has evolved over the years.
So I have entered standardization 25 years ago. My professional background is I'm a nuclear physicist, and I have seen the evolution of standardization, especially on European level. And you know that all the national standards bodies who are member of CEN and the national committees, member of CENELEC, that nowadays our daily business is dominated, it sounds strange, but it's a matter of fact, is shaped by European standardization embedded in international activities. So this is a kind of an evolution, but also a shift in the way of we work. So, for instance, standardization sometimes is seen as a process of producing standards, which is, in my understanding, not correct. Standardization is more than producing standards. Standardization is an open process based on a multi-stakeholder approach. So it's open to all stakeholders who are interested in a certain field. It's consensus-based, consensus-oriented. So it means convincing the others who are sitting on the round table, reaching an agreement, so-called consensus. And that's key. That's key for the success of the system, that we involve everybody who has a say in a certain field, in a certain topic, in a certain standardization activity. Why? Standards are recommendations. Standards are recommendations. Their compliance is not mandatory, and as a recommendation, it's successful in a way that means how is it accepted in the field by the users, those applying standards. And we are working on that, yes, that's what we do. And also to enlarge standardization to new fields, emerging technologies. You know that we are living in a time where the classical border between the different technical fields are getting more and more fuzzy. And so that means, again, standardization has here an important role to play to bring stakeholders from different communities together, that they have an opportunity to find together a common agreement for the benefit of all.
That's really valuable insight. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Could you please tell us what attracted you to the Stair4Security project?
Yes. Stair4Security is a project under Horizon 2020, and that's one of our main focuses, how to bring research and innovation communities closer to standardization, respectively, how to bring standardization closer to research and innovation communities. Here in the field of CBRNE, in the field of security, this is something where standards can play a very important role to ensure transparent processes, to enable, for instance, first responders to save lives, to make all our lives safer, to avoid that we are impacted not only by human-made accidents, but also climate crisis, Fridays for Future, you know that, has an impact, and we have to prevent citizens, to prevent civil persons from being impacted by such fatal accidents. And that's something where standardization can play an important role. And we have worked here together, closer together, with all stakeholder communities. And also very important is that we have to respond to these challenges in a timely manner. That means that we speak here about the so-called time to market. We have to deliver much quicker than many years ago agreements, people can work with, can implement. And so this Stair4Security is also a very good project where we can learn, where we can derive how we can streamline or can make our processes much leaner in order to provide such agreements, such solutions in a quicker way to practitioners, for instance, and also policymakers. Then they can incorporate these solutions in their policies. So that's one of the motivations, many motivations we have being engaged in this very interesting, very important project.
Yeah. Thank you for that. So you expect this project to have a great impact for the standardization, the future of standardization.
Absolutely. Especially one of the topics Stair4Security has is how to involve more practitioners in the process. For instance, in Austria, we have in Austrian Standards more than 4,300 experts participating directly in standardization. These experts are nominated by 2,100 organizations. And on European level, we have more than 200,000 experts participating in standardization. That's a huge number, but that's good. But I think we can do it better. Especially what we can see is there are certain phases in the process of standardization where a nucleus of experts drafting standards, draft standards, send workshop agreements, and then present them to the public. The public can be everybody or a certain number of stakeholders, for example, practitioners, and how involve them in this kind of an open innovation process in a better way. That's one of the questions Stair4Security has to answer, and we are very interested to participate in Stair4Security to learn how these mechanisms, these coupling mechanisms can be. And this has also a very good benefit then for the overall standardization process. So that's a typical what I would call a win-win situation.
Yeah, great. Well, thank you very much for your time and for sitting here with us today. I think that was some excellent insight as to what standardization is and what it might look like in the next 10 years or so.
I would say 10 years is a little bit too long. Let's be a little more pushy and see how it will be in 2, 3, maximum 4 years.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.